Welcome to Brady and Gold Knuckleheads podcast. And as always, sitting right over there, you know who it is. It's my main man, Reggie. What's going on, Reggie?
What's going on, Ken?
But
before we get started, man, what the hell was that?
Just you don't like a different change up intro music there?
Well, listen, I don't mind a little walk up music.
Yeah.
It's just got to be good music. I don't know what the hell that was.
I mean, you can do a request. You know when you walk up to the plate, you can have whatever request music is that you want. You know, you can play some hip hop, you can play some country, you can play, old school, new school, whatever you want, man.
Okay,
I'll
but
take
what was that though?
Let's just go ahead and throw out to the knuckleheads out there. You got a good intro song, good intro music.
Oh my God!
Go ahead and bring it. Throw a suggestion to us.
Let me tell you what that sounded like.
Go ahead.
And yeah, I'm about to age us here, but that sounded like Sanford and Son. That sounded like.
I can see it's got a little that did have a little Sanford and Son, except it'd be
that's what I thought you were playing, man. I thought you was playing Sanford and Son, which I still don't understand what it was and why, but nonetheless, I'm glad we're here, man. I want to first tell everybody thanks for everybody for tapping in and listening to us. Of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see our Twitter handle down there at DA2 Knuckleheads. That's DA2 Knuckleheads. And you can find us on Twitter. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please, as always, we appreciate you tuning in, but at least like and subscribe. That way you can get all the notifications whenever we drop these podcasts. And hopefully as we keep them coming to you. But at least thank you for tuning in and tapping in for this evening podcast. Absolutely. And I'm going to throw it back over to DJ Ken.
I don't even know what to do with that. You know, I mean, how's that? That's we don't even have to be playing the Cowboys. We can throw that out there any time of year, right? But anyway, we are way off track about what this podcast is about. We just got finished a preseason, our second preseason game against the Baltimore Ravens, and
we're 2-0, Ken. We're 2-0. Does that matter?
Hey, Josh Harris's regime has never lost. Sam Howell has never lost. You put these ridiculous things on here. But I will say, I normally don't watch entire preseason games. For whatever reason, I watched last night, and I was interested the entire night. And it was, as far as preseason games goes, it was a pretty interesting preseason game with the first strings, the second stringers, the third stringers, whoever was in. It was an interesting game for being a preseason game. I don't know if you watched the entire game or not, Reg.
I was going to say, man, I think for the first time in my life, that was the first time I watched an entire preseason game. I watched that damn thing from start to finish.
It is rare for me as well. I normally commit to about halftime, and then after that, I might watch the first series in the third quarter. But yeah, I watched the entire game all the way to the 49-yard kick by Mr. Joey Sly.
Yeah. I did the same thing, man. I was like, I can't believe this. I got to get up and go to work tomorrow. But I'm sitting here watching a preseason game. Yeah. But, it was interesting because, again, I think for you and I, and probably most fans, we were very interested in how Sam Howell was going to perform. I mean, I think that's the big question mark going into this season because we're not overly worried about the defense. We know we have some playmakers in some key spots. And so the question became more about how is Sam Howell going to look, how's EB going to look, and how's our offense going to look. So there's a lot of intrigue there. But social media today has been on fire because all of the Baltimore Ravens fans have been kind of giving Washington fans a hard time, saying that you guys are celebrating um, over preseason win. But yet they seem to be a little butthurt behind it. And it's like they keep talking about how it doesn't matter. It didn't matter. It was just preseason. But I guarantee you, if Baltimore had won this game, they would be bragging about how the streak continues. And then it's not so much just about preseason. But then when they lose the streak comes to an end and they lose the game, then it's just preseason. And why are you guys celebrating? You guys making like you won the Super Bowl. And
Right.
it's like, come on, man. You can't have it both ways, right?
It's like, I
And
mean, even go back to like high school when it comes to that. Like if you have a high school that's across town that's not in your region, maybe they're a little bit bigger, maybe they're a little bit smaller, so you don't play them, but you have a preseason or a scrimmage game against them. I promise you, you want to beat them. So in town, anywhere that you see them, whether you're the fan, whether you're the player, you get to trash talk all year long. And with Baltimore and Washington, if it had been Baltimore and I'm sorry, Washington and the Raiders, you wouldn't have this talk. But everybody sits next to the Raven fan or the Commanders fan when you're at work there because it's such a blend of Baltimore and Washington. So that's part of it. And Washington is high right now. They're high for everything. They, every practice we've talked about before how uh, the fans are at these practices and they just can't get enough. They want more success and they're continuing to get more success. 100% in the big scheme of things, it's preseason. It's not that big of a deal, but it's another taste of success that Washington fans aren't used to getting.
which is why we were celebrating about it.
Absolutely.
And let's be honest, the reason why it matters because there was a streak on the line, right?
Correct.
Although it doesn't mean anything in the big scheme, it was still a streak. There was something to be played for last night, and they're missing the fact that the streak was what was on line. There was no Super Bowl trophy, there was no rings to be handed out, but there was a streak on the line. Baltimore wins, the streak continues. Baltimore lose, the streak is broken. And I'm not gonna let it go unnoticed. This is third streak. We done broke.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Pittsburgh was 11-0 during the COVID season. We beat them. Philadelphia Eagles was undefeated last season. We beat them. Baltimore Ravens haven't lost a preseason game in 8 years. 8 years, y'all. Yeah. And it came to an end last night. And they want to go like, oh, it was no big deal. No, in the big scheme of things, it's not. But you still lost the game. You lost the streak.
And I promise you, knowing, being from the area, the Baltimore fans, they're smiling, but it's under their skin. It's irritated that the streak was ended, not just ended, it was ended by the Commanders, right?
Absolutely.
Because even and for those that aren't in the Baltimore, Washington area, didn't grow up around there, in the last 20 years, Baltimore's had more success than Washington, without a doubt, right?
Absolutely.
They're still second fiddle. They are the stepchild. They're the middle child of Washington D.C. area, and they'll really feel like that if Washington starts having a lot of success, continued success.
And think about it. For Baltimore's existence as a franchise, the Commanders or their neighbors have not had any success.
Right.
So, and the fan base has slowly been going away. And then all of a sudden, it comes back. So even the city of Baltimore is about to see what this fan base really is. It's been lined low, right? A lot of fans have run and hid. They stopped wearing the gear, stopped going to the games. Now everybody's gonna start coming back. A little fair weather, I will say.
Absolutely.
But nonetheless, nonetheless, a lot of those casual fans and some of those fans from many, many years ago about to come out the woodworks. So they're going to get to see a lot of that. But anyway, I digress. We won the game. Preseason, I understand it's a preseason game, but at the end of the day, we stalked the street.
Right.
Other teams couldn't do it.
And like I said,
24 of the teams couldn't do it. We did it.
Yeah. This doesn't bother me. I mean, I like that we were successful in the game more than we won the game. But I promise you, if I was in DC and I went into the office today, I'd be looking for the Baltimore fans to give them a little bit of grief because we broke the streak, right? As ridiculous as it is. That's what trash talking is about.
And that's how sports go, man.
That's right. That you attack and give grief at any chance you get because you know it's going to come back to you at another point. So you gotta take advantage of it.
Get it while you can. Absolutely.
Yeah. But there was, I mean, overall, I mean, you win the game. There was a lot of successes. Baltimore didn't play. I know a lot of their defense, and some of their offensive players. Obviously, Lamar Jackson didn't play. A lot of their defense didn't play. But Washington had some definitely some positive notes, along with a couple concerns, even in the win. For Washington, the number one thing, as you started to talk about, was Sam Howell, and he played the entire first half. Overall, what did you think of his performance, Rich?
Oh, Ken.
And I know it's a small sample, and you can only make a judgment off of what you've seen. You've seen basically one game in Dallas, roughly a quarter on week one, and you've seen a half this time during preseason. It's a lower level, I should say. But what are your feelings and thoughts about Sam Howell based strictly on what you've seen?
Okay. I'm going to answer this two ways.
Okay.
I want to answer this question in a way that probably how a lot of fans are looking at it, which is we're going into this season, preseason and season, having question marks about, can Sam be the guy? And when you look at the small sample size, the week 18 game last year against Dallas, the Cleveland game, first preseason this year, and then this season, and then the game on Monday night against Baltimore. We've seen 3 quarters from him in the preseason.
Right.
Sam has not done anything that would make fans not think that we're all right with Sam going to be our quarterback. And the ceiling is high. And for the first time, we feel like we got some stability at the quarterback position because now this guy has nowhere to go but up. The thing that jumps out, I think, the most about Sam is his ability to throw the ball, and the guy is poised in the pocket. The game does not seem to be too big. He makes a mistake. You see him, he just takes it. He looks at it, move on to the next play. He recovers and moves on from it. His poise in the pocket and just to command the offense and everything, he looks the part. He's not done anything that make us go, we need to keep looking. He's done everything to deserve the chance and the opportunity to be our franchise quarterback going forward. Okay. So last night or Monday night with the game, great stat line. 188 yards in the first half, 2 touchdowns, 19 of 25. I think he had 123 passer rating or something. So that's what everybody's looking at.
All right.
So from that perspective, man, I'm ready to hook to the wagon, to the Sam Howell wagon.
Okay.
And as we get more into this, here's how I truly feel about it all. Our offense, starting offense practically, played the Baltimore backups.
All right.
And we didn't look that great overall as a starting offense against Baltimore's backup. And that was a little bit concerning to me. And I understand people say, well, it's preseason. We didn't game plan for them and all that kind of stuff. I understand that. But if me and you right now, Ken, go and find some fifth graders and go play ball, we're going to beat them. Just virtue because we're bigger, better. Our starters should be better than Baltimore's backup players. They didn't have the starting defense in there. They didn't have the starting front in there. We had, outside of maybe I think a tackle or two, we pretty much had our starting offense out there. And yet, we didn't have a whole lot of success against a backup Baltimore team.
Well,
and as I was watching that concerned me.
I understand what you're saying. I want to interrupt real quick and let you pick back up. I mean, they scored 17 and a half against them. I'm not saying that is absolutely great, but you still scored 17 points. So you were moving the ball, right? 3 scores and a half. I'll take that all day long. You might say they should have had 5 scores, instead of 3, but they did have success. But go ahead.
Can Baltimore's opening drive, I think they drove down the field in 2 plays. No, not plays, 2 plays. 6 plays, 75 yards, 2 minutes and 39 seconds. They drove with their backup offense down the field against our defense.
Right.
We drive the field and kick a field goal. Our starting offense against their backup defense. But their backup drove 6 plays, 75 yards, took them 2 minutes.
Oh, I'm not saying, I'm not going to sit here and say there's not any concern, but again, we're talking preseason.
Okay. Fair enough. So I'm trying to remind myself this is preseason, but I can't ignore the fact that our starting offense was against their backup defense, and we didn't look great.
But when we scored the field goal, but when we scored our first field goal and drove down there, we were within the 5. We just didn't end up, finishing the drive. I understand, but we drove the ball down there as well.
Listen, the emphasis on this season is turnovers on the defense and converting in the red zone on offense. We have a 15-play, 72-yard. In fact, it took 9 minutes, which is a hell of a drive. We wound up with a field goal against the Baltimore backup defense. I understand it's preseason. If you told me that was the Baltimore starting defense and we ended up have a 9-minute drive and we got a field goal out of against their starting defense, I'd been like, hell yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty damn good. But it was against the backup. So your question to me was about Sam Howell. Sam Howell played fine. He played well. I was pleased with what I saw. Big picture-wise, I was a little worried. I ain't gonna lie, I was a little worried.
And while I don't disagree, I think that if we're just going to talk about the first drive here, I don't really, other than maybe one play, I don't put that on Sam Howell, right? Sam Howell overall, I think played very, very well. I think, when I'm evaluating Sam Howell, I look at it kind of, I get to the same conclusion, but from a couple different avenues.
The bar is low, Ken.
What's that?
The bar is low.
No. Well, to my point here, one of the things is if Sam Howell, how he has played again, the time that he's played between this preseason and against Dallas last year, if Sam Howell was a first-round pick, a second-round pick, everybody would feel better with the exact same performance, right? And what you started to say when you first started talking about Sam Howell was his composure, how he played. He has a lot of from a approach and love and passion and not getting rattled. He's Taylor Heineke, but with a lot more talent.
I don't disagree.
I would say more talent, more composure, Um, and I, I, I think one of the things when I look at when I look at quarterbacks coming out, I don't care if you're a first round, second round, third round. You've heard me say it on this podcast before. You've heard me say it at the sports bar. You need to, as a quarterback, is not just about completions. It is about hitting people in stride. It is about your running back flares out and he doesn't have to turn halfway around to get the ball. He catches it and he just never breaks stride. That's the ball that Howell throws. He's hitting these receivers in tight windows and putting it on there. And when you look last year and the year before with Heineke throwing it and with Wentz or whoever else throwing it, these receivers oftentimes were required to make incredible catches. We haven't seen anybody make an incredible catch yet because Howell's putting it on the money.
I understand.
To his credit.
But I'm going to ask again, if Sam Howell was playing the Ravens' first string defense, how different does the stat line look?
I can't tell you.
And that's my thing.
But I can only go off of what I know. I can't do all kinds of ifs and buts and how good would XYZ receiver be on our team with a Pro Bowl quarterback the last 3 or 4 or 5 20 years.
I understand.
So but there's nothing at this point other than lack of experience, which is big. There's nothing at this point that causes me to go, and I don't think Sam Howell's going to be the guy. I'm not saying he is going to be the guy, but he's done everything right, everything that you can pretty much ask for him to do. A couple times, I think he could have thrown the ball away. At least on one of the sacks, he could have thrown the ball away. And that comes with youth and experience and trying to make plays, right? But
I don't need him to make plays. We got playmakers, man. He's not at his junior year at UNC right now.
And that comes with experience.
Okay, but this is the second week in a row where he's like, the sack is on me, and it's because he's holding on to the ball. Get rid of the ball, man. You got playmakers. We don't need you to go and try to extend and make the play.
There are plenty of quarterbacks. There are plenty of quarterbacks in the NFL that do it that are 10-year veterans, that are successful 10-year veterans.
Okay,
it just happens, right? I'm not making an excuse. When you need to throw the ball away, you need to throw the ball away. I don't care if you're Aaron Rodgers or Sam Howell.
But if you don't have the talent around you and you're trying to make that play, I understand. Well, he's got talent around him. So if the play's not there, man, get rid of it. Live to see another day. Yeah. But I want to say this to wrap this up for Sam Howell. Do I think Sam Howell is good enough to be the guy for us? Yes, I am. Where you're hearing me with the reservation was our offense against their backup defense. We talked about how this team, our schedule is harder this year. We can't afford to get off the slow starts. And here we are, had an opportunity with our starting offense against a backup defense, and we didn't look great. Because guess what? Come week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, the defenses you're playing aren't going to be backups. Hell, even the Cardinals starting defense with Budda Baker and some of those guys is going to be a lot more competition than you experience against Baltimore. So
Cardinals Cardinals have a very good defense.
Exactly. So my point being is, here we are struggling to some degree against backups when come week 1, you don't have the luxury of playing backups. I want to separate.
You're playing vanilla ball, Reg. Right?
I understand.
You're playing vanilla ball, and the difference with preseason also is not that you're not trying to win, but you're trying to mix it up. You're calling plays also for the success of the season, just as much as you are for the success of the game.
Okay.
Right.
So I want to be wrong on this. Okay. I don't want to be having this podcast come week 4 and we're talking about how our offense is getting off the slow start and we're spotting teams 20 points. Okay. So that's just my concern.
That hasn't happened yet. That hasn't happened.
Well, it hadn't happened this season. It's been our calling card.
Absolutely.
It's been our calling card the past 4.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with
So
that.
so my whole point here is we've talked about how on the offensive side and the defensive side, we can't afford to get off to slow starts. We can't get behind the 8 ball on offense, and we can't defensively allow teams to get up on us either. So I will temper that as saying it was preseason, but it got my attention last night because it was supposed to be the dress rehearsal type game.
Right.
This is what used to be the third preseason game.
And I'll kind of pivot here from what you're saying there. We talked about um, Sam Howell. It looks like he still has a decent connection with the tight end Turner, um, Terry, and
John,
Dotson both seem to be in sync with him, and even Brown a couple times uh, seems to be working with him. So across the board, I like that he hasn't locked into any one person. We saw last night that he was going through progressions, which is something that other quarterbacks have struggled. Even, you know, I'll even go back to RG3. He was when things went right, he everything went right for him. But as soon as there was a problem with the pocket or the first or second receiver wasn't there, he couldn't continue to go through his reads. Um, but I think overall on offense, I think we're going to be okay. We've got another preseason. We've got a couple weeks here. Terry injured his toe,
I
but
don't think the starters are going to play that third preseason game.
I don't think so either. I don't think I would agree that even Sam Howell probably is not going to play,
Agreed.
um, and go from there. Um,
Let
Switching
me
over,
say too
go ahead.
before you get into Terry's injury. Back to kind of my point here about how the offense looked a little bit. There was clearly an emphasis on the short game. Okay, we
Right,
saw quite a bit of the screen game last night, and clearly that's something that they're implementing that Scott Turner didn't really implement in our offense. And man, it just it didn't look good, man. The screen game just I don't know what it is about our team and its ability to run the screen game. It just didn't look good. Um, I think the running backs combined, if I remember right, 7 catches. I thought I had it in my notes or something, but they had like 7 catches for like less than 30 yards.
right,
Right. And this is supposed to be somewhat of a big part of the Kansas City Airbnb offense. And again, between Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, the screen game looked awful last night. I mean, a lot of the offense came out of the passing game, which goes back to Sam Howell.
right,
But the run game didn't look good. The screen game didn't look great. And early on in training camp, there was a lot of talk about them running screenplays and a lot of passes to the running backs in training camp.
right.
So even if you didn't game plan for the Baltimore defense, we didn't do a good job of executing what is supposed to be a staple of this offense. Um, so again, just an observation. I understand it's preseason, but man, I'm just worried about it. I'm just worried
Yeah.
about it. But
Well, one of the things I noticed when it came to that was I know everybody in the off season and even after week one, everybody was talking about, you know, Gibson is going to be dynamic. He's going to break free and break loose this year under Bieniemy. And I've said from the beginning, I said it last year before he got injured. B Rob is going to be the guy. He's the one that is catching more out of the backfield. He's the one that's running. He's the one that has running back talent, not half running back, half wide receiver. I can't. I, I'm down on Gibson, to be honest with you.
okay.
I'm not sitting to cut him or nothing like that. Um, I'm tired of hearing about potential and him breaking free and breaking loose. And this is going to be his year. He's done it for a year or two now, or whatever. He's just not doing it. Um, and we'll see. Maybe when the season starts and he gets into a role more defined for him rather than preseason of just kind of running some plays. Maybe we'll see a change, but I think as of right now, B Rob is going to be much more of the guy, both running the ball and out of the backfield, from what I see.
Yeah. Yep. We'll see. I mean, I don't know if they're just trying to keep some of the part of the offense that's going to highlight Antonio Gibson. They try to keep that as a secret, and maybe they don't want to run a lot of those plays in preseason. I don't know. I will agree that what we've seen thus far, it seems to be that the offense is going to lean more toward Brian Robinson. But just like they stashed Terry during the preseason, his rookie year, maybe there's something with Antonio Gibson that they're just holding back because they don't want to put it out on tape. That at least that's my hope. But I don't. But I don't know that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm rooting for his success. I'm skeptical at this point. After a few years of waiting for him to break out and be the guy. Yeah,
No, I get
I
it.
don't
I
know that
get
he's
it.
ever going to be it. So
I get it. I get it. The
um,
other thing
and
that came out of the game was the injury to Terry McLaurin. They did X-rays during the game that came back negative, so there's no break or fracture. And I think now it's just a matter of doing an MRI, if I recall. I don't think that's been done yet. And
yeah,
they said
it was done, and nothing serious, no ligaments or anything like that. It's just nothing more than a sprained
a
toe.
sprain. So they're saying
Um,
he's day to day, and he could potentially be ready. But just going back to an injury like that, you can stretch ligaments and they never go back, right? And
right.
that's kind of where you have to be concerned about this type of injury lingering throughout the season. Hopefully, it was just that. It was just
Yeah.
a sprain type of deal, and it's a little bit of swelling maybe, and they work on it and nurture it, and then all of a sudden by week one, he'll be fine, and it's a non-issue.
Right.
But it's something to be concerned about until we know anything different.
Right. Right. I mean, he was
My
he was walking on it, and I don't anticipate him to be practicing for the next handful of days at least, and then we'll be able to gauge when we start hearing that he's practicing or not practicing, um, to see if he's going to
right,
be ready for week one. But I think they're, to your point, they're going to be overly cautious with him uh, during practice, and definitely he's not going to be in the preseason game. But I think
right.
even in the practices, they're going to take it very, very slow, take it easy, and the last 4 or 5 days before the opener. Um, Hopefully, he's ready for a full on practice at that point. He'll have had almost 2 weeks of rest on it, and I think he's going to be good to go.
Okay, well, good. My one bold prediction on offense before, unless you have one more thing on to talk about, but I'm going to make a bold prediction here, Ken, and that is that the Kashmir Allen is not only going to make the team, he's going to make the 53-man roster.
I'm not sure. I like what he brings, but in a in a in an area where we are deep, there's a few areas that cornerback slash safety and anything tied to the wide receiver, we're fairly deep this year. And if you're one of the guys on the bubble, it would not be a comfortable place to be, because there,
Yeah, but he can do
because
something the
there's
others aren't doing, and that's the special team for kickoff and punts.
that's the only way he makes the team, right?
That's why I say he's going to make the
Yeah.
team.
Um,
Who? Because there's nobody else to do it. Because God knows, I hope they don't go with Dax.
I think I don't think that's going to happen.
So then,
But
who's going to do it?
I guess again, it goes to how you're putting your team together.
I understand,
And
but just who else would you think do it though? Regardless of how they put it together, who do you think would fit that role?
Dotson.
Man, they're not gonna put no,
He
not
he
no
did it in
full time
college.
return guy.
I'm just saying he did it in college. I don't think that they would do it.
Terry played special teams in college, but he ain't playing it now. Nah, brother, they're not gonna put Dotson back there. Hell no.
You put one of the running backs. Yeah, again, you have to when you start filling out who you're going to have and who you're not going to have, and how you're going to play, what injuries people are coming off of that might not be ready for week one, and even from a safety and cornerback, can you play both positions? Some people can and some people can't, and it doesn't matter as much as a starter, but when you start talking about backups. Even Ron has said from an offensive line perspective, and while he's talked about offensive line, he talked about it all the way across the board. The more positions and the more flex that you have, the more valuable you are to the team. I don't know.
I said it's my bold prediction.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not going to make it, and I don't think it's that bold of a prediction because he's the only one that's he's had some success as a returner.
Can't come on. You tell me it's not a bold prediction, but then you're not confident to say that he's gonna make the team. You're not even sure he's gonna make the team. I'm saying he's gonna make the 53-man roster.
I'm just saying he's a bubble guy to me. He might make it. I'm not saying he's not going to make it.
He's a bubble guy, but it's not a bold prediction. Come on.
Somebody who's only going to be kicking off and return and making the team is not a bold prediction, in my opinion.
It is when you don't have one. And we all screamed that we did not want Dax Mill doing punts anymore. And so when you don't have one, it's a big deal. I don't think
Dax Mills is going to make the 53.
That's fine.
So they will be finding somebody else, regardless of that anyway. Who that person is.
But just because we don't want Dax, they could choose Dax. Just like a lot of fans didn't like Troy Apke, but they continue to put Troy Apke. David Mayo. A lot of fans don't want David Mayo, but they choose David Mayo. Just because we don't like Dax doesn't mean they don't. And so
I agree. I'm just saying I don't think that that from everything that I see and hear, I don't see anything from him even making the team this year. Again, especially when you see the players that I'll use Pringle as an example. That's one of EB's guys.
He didn't do punt returns though. It's not his thing.
I'm not saying that he's the one. That there's 53 people on there. We're not stuck to one person. Because if he does get hurt, who's going to be the backup? You have to have somebody else on the team that can do just about everything, right?
Okay.
I mean, if Allen gets injured on the very first kickoff of the game, who's going to be there, Reg?
They'll probably bring somebody up. They'll bring somebody up.
Who's going to do it the rest of the game?
Well, they'll go sign somebody. Then that's what you do in an emergency, Ken. Come on, right? It's an emergency.
It's not an emergency.
If your one guy gets hurt, you do bring in an emergency guy. But just generally speaking, that's where you would throw the Dotson and the Gibson back there. But that's not going to be their role. You're not going to put those guys on special teams. Deshaun Jackson was great at it, but he only did it in situational circumstances. He didn't do it.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. I didn't say that Dotson was going to do it full time all season long. I'm just saying he has the ability to do it. There are other players that have the ability to do it.
Okay. All right. Let's quickly talk about the defense.
Well, a lot of them didn't play, right? None of the starting defensive line played.
All right. Well, we're done. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
but you did get to see some of the guys that are again from a defensive perspective. You got to see a lot of the guys that are trying to be the backup, right? We talked about that we're deep at cornerback and safety, and I'll tell you there was a couple guys that played cornerback and safety that they just missed.
Ken, let's just cut to it, man. Let's just cut to it.
And I'll go two people. the goose was loose and not in a good way. And then Quan Martin,
Oh my God.
man,
Wild Goose ain't gonna make the team.
I'm not saying he's gonna make it. I'm just saying he had a couple bad plays.
Oh my God.
On that game. He took a couple bad angles and a bad tackle.
We love Wild Goose last year, man, but this year that brother ain't gonna make the team.
Wild Goose started off well last year, and then as the season went on, it was mistake. I don't know that he's going to make it this year or not.
He's not gonna make the team.
But
bold prediction.
But Quan Martin, after the first preseason game, he got a lot of heat, and it was his Twitter page where he was copying. He was copying.
Receipts,
what's that?
He was keeping receipts.
Yeah, he was catching screenshots of people that were criticizing him, and he said he was keeping receipts. Well, after the second preseason game, he's got a lot more receipts to track because I don't know what he was doing out there on a couple plays. He might have had a couple plays where he played well and defended the guy and they didn't come at him, but was it the first touchdown?
Yes.
He was just swinging his arm like he was playing Red Rover, send the receiver on over, and he just breaks right through his arms as he's kind of halfway reaching for him. And then, and this is one thing that when I see a lot of the media today, and this is actual from the media that is supposed to be knowledgeable. There was a lot of media today out of Washington that talked about how good of an interception that he had in the end zone.
Hang on before you get to the interception. I want to talk about the first play.
Okay.
Because I'm watching this game, and Zay Flowers is wide open. Yep. Then he runs down the field, and Quan Martin jogs. And I immediately scream at the television, like, what the hell is he? What is he doing? Like,
you and I were texting each other immediately.
He didn't run to the ball.
No.
And as a result, Zay Flowers ends up running into the end zone. So then they replay it. They replay the play.
Right.
We have two Washington defenders go to one guy. And I looked, and one of the guys that went with the extra guy was Quan Martin. So Zay Flowers is wide open because Quan and the other guy went with somebody else.
Right.
So at this point, y'all had to break up in the defense. There's miscommunication by somebody, whether it's Quan or the other guy.
Right,
but at the end of the day, somebody then blew an assignment. And then you jog to go chase one of the fastest guys in the league. You jog after the guy. You didn't even try to push him out. You didn't try to dive. And I'm like, he was
watching. He was watching at that point, right? It's like Pee Wee football where everybody's running around. And you got that one kid who's just standing there watching everybody, run past him, run around him, do whatever.
Because look, man,
and that was Quan Martin on that play.
And I'm like, listen, I've never played collegiate ball or anything like that, and so I try not to question those guys like that. But man, one thing you can control is your effort. And the fact that he wasn't giving any effort on that, a second-round pick would probably get his butt chewed out. If he was undrafted, a seventh-round pick, you might lose. You might get cut for that kind of stuff. So I did not appreciate
the game. Yes,
I did not appreciate Quan Martin not hustling to a play that him and the other DB blew an assignment. So I was hot after that. And again, this was on their opening drive. Right. 6 plays, 75 yards. Well, 26 of them came on that one play.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, man. But you was getting ready to go to Quan's highlight play number 2.
Well, and if you didn't see the game, that it was actually a longer pass than that. It was probably a 35-yard pass, roughly. The wide receiver blew past him. He was
toast.
He made a cut, burned. And then he was burned. Baltimore quarterback threw it up, laid up there a little bit longer than what it should have. Receiver goes up to catch the ball and mishandles the ball, and the ball just falls into Quan Martin's gut, and he grabs it and turns around, and yeah, it's an interception, and from the end zone runs 53 57-yard return from that point, and everybody's going wild that he just intercepted the ball. And I'm happy that the fact that there was a turnover, but Quan Martin
He
was
didn't make the
burned.
play.
No, he did not. He did not. He didn't earn
No.
that interception. It fell into his lap. Almost like he had
The dude
Velcro on
almost
his.
handed him the ball.
Yes.
I mean, he's around there running down the field. Teammates are celebrating. He's celebrating as if he made this hell of a play. The ball practically landed in his hand. The guy almost gave it to him. He was toast. He was in trail position, just trying to run and get back into position, and he never turned around and saw the ball. The ball just fell in his lap.
Baltimore. It was an easy touchdown for Baltimore that they blew.
If
Josh Johnson, Martin's lap.
If Josh Johnson gets a little more air under that ball,
a little less air, less air. If he gets it there a little bit quicker, because it gave Quan Martin a chance to recover a little, or to recover a little bit, because he hung up in the air. Because he had him by at least 2 steps, maybe 3.
Man, more than that. He was burned.
Yes,
that brother was burned.
Yes.
And I was like, come on, man. Come on, Quan.
And
so, then he all post game. He happy. Like, brother.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
You might be happy, but if I'm evaluating from a coach's perspective, I'm not happy. You didn't play well week 1 preseason. You definitely got burned a couple times for this one. It should have been 2 touchdowns on him, right?
Yep.
And so we will see. I don't think week 1 we're going to see much of Quan Martin. I think he's, I think when he was brought in here, we were hoping that he would maybe even compete, or he would be playing a lot of the Buffalo nickel. Right off the bat of the season, it's not happening.
Buffalo bench.
Yeah, it's not happening right now. I hope he can get it
together. He may go out,
get a feel for it, but the mistakes that he's making aren't physical mistakes. It's between the ears and effort mistakes.
And he may go out and he may kill it in the 3rd preseason game, because I got to believe he's going to play. So he may go out and kill it in 3rd preseason game, and maybe things start clicking and he turns it around. But the lot of playing time that everyone talked about that he was going to get, and how he was going to compete, and everybody's wondering whose spot he's going to take on the field, I don't think we got to worry about that right now. That's not to say that he's not going to turn this thing around, but early on, nah, don't worry about Quan. He'd be all right.
Well, even go to the draft. When we drafted him, people were saying that, man, he fell to us, right? We got a heck of a pick in the 2nd round when he fell to us in the 2nd round, and I hope that ends up being.
He may still be.
I hope it ends up being true. I think, I'm not going to say he doesn't have the talent, but it's not gelling for him right now. And
agreed.
And sometimes that's just how it is with a rookie. It takes a half a season or a season to get it to click.
And maybe it's a situation where, they talked about how they was playing him in the slot, he's playing him at safety, and maybe they're throwing too much at him.
Right.
Maybe they just need to hone in on one spot for the short term and let him hone his skill and get better and understand things from one's position before we start trying to just utilize him as a Swiss Army knife, as they kept saying, because of all the positions he played at Illinois.
Right.
Maybe he needs to just focus on one at the time and get better. Because right now, if he wasn't a 2nd round pick, we're probably not talking about it very much. But man, as a 2nd round pick, and the way they talked about him after the draft and through the training camp and things of that nature, it's not looking good for Quan, man. And I'm not sure they're not giving up on him. I've not given up on him. but the early reports ain't looking good, bro.
Yeah, yeah. He's a little overwhelmed, is what it looks like. And I hope,
Most certainly.
and like I said, I hope for his sake and for Washington's sake, right? If you're a Washington fan, you want that success. Um, Anything else that stood out for you on defense?
Not a whole lot, man. Defense again. The only other thing that probably stood out, and we don't have to get into it, was the fact that our potential starting two linebackers played with backups last night. So I don't, reports are it was just a matter of them getting some reps together. Nothing more than that. It was just interesting that Jamin Davis and Cody Barton was playing, whereas opposed to the front four wasn't playing. Fuller wasn't playing. Of course, Emmanuel Forrest were playing. You didn't have Cam. So you didn't have a lot of starters playing, but you had your starting linebackers out there. And even then, you didn't hear a lot from them. So that might be another to be concerned about going into the season with those two. But other than that, because a lot of starters did not play, I don't have a whole lot to say about the defense.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to that. Just two little quick things on special teams. Tressway handled a
bad snap
very, very well. I mean, that thing just kind of skipped in, and he didn't even flinch. There was no hesitation from Joey Sly. He didn't have to like double step it or pause to go into it. So Joey Sly is going to be the kicker for Washington, and he did well in the game, kicking the game-winning 49-yard field goal.
Yes, sir.
And then yeah, Tressway handling that bad snap. Two good things to say, or good things to see, that hopefully we won't have to worry about during the season either.
Correct.
So,
well, that's it, man. Preseason game 2, preseason game 3 will be next. It's gonna probably be mostly all backups.
Yeah.
Probably not a lot happening there. And then, man, we're on to week 1. And then we will be looking forward to that. Arizona Cardinals, man.
You know what? They mentioned it during the game, about considering it was a preseason game, the crowd was into it, right? And I imagine that the crowd against week 1, because Arizona doesn't have a big following outside of Arizona, right? They're not like the Raiders, or a team that has had long-term success and is nationwide. Right. So it's going to be
travel well.
Yeah, it's going to be a 90% Washington fan base, and I think it's going to end up being a sellout. And that place is going to be exciting. It's going to be an exciting opening day. They always are, but I think it's going to have another level with the new ownership, with the new head coach, new offensive coordinator. First game, high expectations. Let's go.
Yeah, it's gonna be good, man. It's gonna be good. So, but that's all we got, man. That's a preview of week 2 against the Baltimore Ravens and the 1-1 Baltimore Ravens against the 2-0 Washington Commanders. So we will be back to discuss a little bit preseason game 3 and probably a little bit of predictions as we head into the new season and all that good stuff. So again, like, subscribe so you get notifications. And until next time, y'all, peace out.
Peace out, knuckleheads.